there was a real push from amongst inside the Muslims, hypocrites amongst the Muslims, who were trying to tell the Prophet, look, assimilate back with the Christians and Jews. Let's unite our
I
authority.
never knew that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. It was a huge thing.
And
And
you
the
see the
Christians,
same
Jews,
thing today.
yeah, they actually had a lot of one of the big things is like in the time of Jahiliyyah, they actually had a lot of authority over the Arabs because the Arabs were kind of, like they were idol worshippers, right? So
That's why
the
Abraha actually came in with
like if you look at, for
weapons.
instance, the Jews, they were the wealthiest community in Arabia.
Wow,
Like
wow,
they
wow.
had extremely huge properties, right? They owned all the plantations, all the farms.
Yeah,
Um,
Falak.
yeah, and they actually had like astrologers. They had like people like even when the Holy Prophet came, right? The basically the disbelievers of Mecca, the polytheists, they actually referred to the Jews and they were like, does this prophet meet like your criteria? And a lot of them said yes, and that's why a lot of them became Muslim, you know. But there was a group of them who were like staunch, like no, oh, stubbornly trying to
Because it
resist,
had to
right?
be from
It has
Israelites.
to be
Yeah.
Israelite, yeah,
Sax line. That's
yeah.
a basic line.
So I mean, you can see that this was a thing amongst that community. They already referred to the Christians and Jews for kind of as their source of knowledge, right? They would take them as a source of like an epistemic source. Like when the Christians and Jews tell you something, you listen, right? That's how the Jahili Arabs were. So even if you look at, I mean, even Muawiyah, Yazid, right? These guys, they were like really assimilated into the Jewish, or sorry, the Christian kind of like, you guys have heard of Sir John, right? It's one of the advisors of Yazid. He was like very top up there, and he was a Christian, you know? I mean, he came from the Romans, right? So this whole idea, like the Banu Umayyah as a larger group, and they got this sunnah from the Shaykhain, from Abu Bakr and Umar,
I've
to
actually
kind of
heard,
try to assimilate
yeah,
into Christian and Jewish culture, right?
yeah, I've heard the Jews had a
Used to
role
know
to
that
play
like
in Karbala. Actually, I'm not sure how true it is, but I have heard this like before.
That the Jews played a role.
Yeah, with Yazid.
Yeah, I think that I've heard this too, but I've heard specifically that it was Sir John,
Sir
that
John.
this advisor of Yazid that played a role, that actually told him strategically that you need to eliminate Imam al-Hussein. And he was Christian. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't Jew, but I'm not so sure about if there was a Jewish person specifically who played a role.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard that before, but I know that Sir John, this Christian advisor, did play a prominent role, and he was from the Romans, right?
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
so if you actually want to, you can start. I think I sent you two hadiths. If you can do either one.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
the first one I think is I guess it's more of a kind of an incident, I guess, than a hadith itself. The next one is a hadith. But we can go through it specifically about Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Her martyrdom was yesterday, or at least the second narration of the martyrdom was yesterday. Uh, so and then what we'll do next, we'll talk about this, and then we'll maybe we'll do a one controversy of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and then we can do a little bit of Quran.
sure, inshallah.
Yeah, so you can just kind of whatever you want, you can read out. Um,
Okay.
and this one
بسم
actually
الله
is
الرحمن الرحيم.
interestingly, it's in the I think it's in Abu Dawood. It's not actually.
Oh, okay. تنبيه الخواطر. Um, oh, did you want me to read the
Up to
first
you.
one?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can read the first hadith and then the second.
It doesn't have to be the whole thing. You can just read like the last part of it.
Yeah. So, um, so this is عن ثوبان مولى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إذا سافر كان آخر عهده بإنسان من أهله فاطمة عليه السلام وأول من يدخل عليها إذا قدم فاطمة عليه السلام. So when the Messenger of Allah went on a journey, the last member of his family he saw was Fatima, and the first he visited on his return was Fatima. This is narrated by Thawban, who was one of the basically freed slaves of the Holy Prophet from Sunan Abi Dawud. So basically, it emphasizes how you see the person you love the most is the one you see first, right?
And you
Right
have
when you come
last.
back from a trip, and the one you kind of say goodbye to the very last when you're leaving, right? That tells you how close that bond was to the Holy Prophet. And I think we talked about this before, right? About I think that hadith you were asking me about, Abdullah, about
it's just
yes, that
the chopping the hand off
yes, that if
Fatima
Fatima
alayhi
were to
salam.
steal, I would cut her hand off.
Yeah.
The Holy Prophet was saying that in the context of like he loves Fatima the most, and so he was saying that look, if she were to go against Allah's laws, I would still apply the punishment
With
upon
the
her.
preface before that,
No.
Ashraf al-Nas,
Yeah,
Shurafa al-Nas,
yeah.
being from the, was that the word that they used? Or I forgot the word that they used. Um,
I think you're talking about the context was that Allah never destroyed a people
yeah,
before you, except because when a sharif person would commit a basically he would steal, they would let him go. But when a
yeah,
poor person were to commit a sin or commit a basically theft, they would apply the punishment upon him. So then he says that Holy Prophet then says that if Fatima were to, by Allah, I swear that if Fatima were to steal, I would still cut her hand. Meaning that the Prophet does not differentiate. Oh, you're poor, you're rich, who cares? You're part of my family, you're not. You're someone I love or don't. I'm still gonna apply the punishment of Allah, upon you, right? So like that very much clearly sets this you know, in in basically stone that the Holy Prophet loved Sayyidah Fatima the most because why else would he choose her specifically in that context, right? He's saying that Fatima is the most beloved to me, right? And that's why I mean even those narrations, Fatima bid'atun minni, Fatima is part of me. It kind of all falls into place. Then you see that how important Fatima was to the Holy Prophet, right? Salawatullahi alayhi. So I think that very much clearly establishes in this hadith further reinforces it that she's the first one who he returns to and the last one he leaves, right? From any type of trip he had. So I think
this is in a time when he had wives. This is a time when he had friends and other family and other uncles and cousins.
yeah, exactly. Ahsant. All right, so then let's look at that second hadith.
Yeah. So this hadith actually is from her.
So عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام من أصعد إلى الله خالص عبادته أهبط الله عز وجل له أفضل مصلحته. Fatima Zahra has said, the one who sends up to Allah his pure and sincere worship, Allah the Almighty and Exalted will send down for him that which will be of the most benefit to him. So that's from Tanbih al-Khawatir, volume 2, page 108. So, all right, so this hadith is talking about sending up to Allah your most sincere worship, right? Um, and as a result, Allah sends down upon you what is best for your interest. So I think this is really important for a lot of us to understand. It's, people I think that they also they kind of have this negative opinion of Allah, su'ul dhan, right? Su'ul dhan is actually one of the biggest sins in Islam, right? Do you guys know what su'ul dhan means?
Yeah, like assuming bad.
Assuming bad?
Yeah.
In what sense? So if we say we su'ul dhan of Allah, what does that
Like
mean?
thinking like of Allah as like someone who'd harm you or do bad.
Yes,
Like
right,
like he wouldn't be as merciful.
right.
Undermining his sifat.
Yes, so su'ul dhan meaning that you consider Allah constantly, you have a bad opinion. Anything He gives you, you're like, oh, why Allah, why did you do this to me? Why did
Yeah.
why did you do this for me? Why did you do that for me? Oh, Allah, you're punishing me. You constantly have a bad opinion of Allah, right? Um, and there's some people who are like that, right? And that's actually in the Quran, Allah considers that a sin, right? Um, what is it? Uh, وَظَنَنْتُمْ بِاللَّهِ ظَنَّ السَّوْءِ, right? عَلَيْهِمْ دَائِرَةُ السَّوْءِ وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَعَنَهُمْ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا, right? There's like a verse of the Quran that talks about people who have this bad opinion of Allah. Allah says that upon them is basically encircling upon them is actually, the evil opinion that they have of Allah. The evil is actually encircling them, right? And Allah is very upset. Allah has much anger towards them, and He's cursed them, and they will have a painful chastisement in hereafter. So, this is very interesting because most of the time when you look in the Quran, it's like actions, right? Like things that you do that you get punishment for, right? But this is like an exception where it's like if you have a bad opinion of Allah, says He's gonna punish you.
Like
You
how
know?
does like punishing them like help the situation?
Yeah.
Because so the thing is, I think that no matter what Allah does to them, they will consider it a punishment. You know, that's sort of like
Always half empty. Always half empty.
because that's their sort of mentality, right? Their mentality is to always look at something. So that's what's unique about this hadith, because I think it's actually showing that correlation, that it doesn't actually say this, but it's actually something that's a phenomenon that's tried and tested, right? Because when you have sincerity in your worship of Allah, your opinion of Allah actually changes, right? You actually start thinking of Allah as kind, as loving, as someone who is constantly looking after his
You have
servants,
true
right?
faith in the
And as a
return.
result, you look at the things that Allah sends to you automatically as being in your best interest, right? So it's kind of so even this is interesting. I don't know if you guys have heard the word. Everybody knows the word adab, right? Adab means punishment, right?
Yeah.
So the word adab also we say ma'un adb, right? Ma'un adb. What does ma'un adb mean? Have you heard of that?
Pure or
Very sweet,
tasty, I guess
tasty
is
water,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that same root, adaba, right? Adaba, it actually means in its root, it means something which is sweet, right? And so it's actually used to describe water that's very sweet. They say adb, right? But then why do we see like the word adab
Yeah.
coming from this? Adab means like torment, punishment. How's
Yeah.
punishment sweet, right? So
I think even in the Quran, Allah uses adb as well. It's good context for I think some of the blessings or some of the
So does
the
that get like
rewards.
mistranslated?
No,
in
no,
some
no.
cases?
I think he's gonna go into the deeper meaning. Go
yeah, I
ahead.
think you're talking about the verse وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج, right? So there's a verse that talks about water being adb, right? Very tasty, sweet, right? And then you have adab, which is like punishment, right? So what's the link, right? So adb, that same root has both these meanings, sweet and then punishment, right? Or something which is like causes torment to someone, right? So how do you explain this? So the meaning of actually the root of this meaning, adaba, it has a meaning of basically giving something, basically accentuating or um, what would be the best word? Bolstering the nature of something, right? So when you say ma, right, water, you say az, it means water that is basically really tasty, water that is the pinnacle of water, right? So adab has that same meaning. It has a meaning of
Take it to its extreme.
something taken to basically it's augmented, or something which is already a disposition within you is accentuated, right? Something which is already existing within you is accentuated, right? That's the best way to say it. So water is already in its nature sweet, tasty. So ma'un adh means water that is accentuated in its beauty, in its excellent taste, right? So punishment in the same way actually accentuates what exists in the heart of the kafir already. The heart of the kafir is filled of basically hate of Allah, you know, basically su'ul dhan, right? Having that bad opinion of Allah. So the adab is actually an accentuation of that, right? So the punishment that Allah gives them in the hereafter, it's actually, Allah says jaza'an wifaqa, right? That it's basically a recompense that is in a portion. It's in the same proportion as that internal disposition that they had in this world of hatred, of su'al dhan, having a bad opinion of Allah. So the adab of the hereafter is actually uh, completely in line with their own nature. You see that? So that's the connection. That's what that word adaba means, right? Adaba means to be in a portion to the disposition within you, right? So water has that disposition of being sweet. That's why it's ma'un adab, punishment. It's it's in a portion it's in the same proportion as the disbelief and the su'ud dhan that someone had, right? In the hereafter, they get the same level of punishment,
So
right?
even if it was like as a result of external factors, like because a lot of people like their situations like make them into a kafir.
Yeah. So I mean, I think Allah knows the internal nature, right? Allah can separate those external factors from
To
what is truly within a
Yeah.
So
person,
you can
right?
call them kafir. Are they truly? Like, have they truly seen the truth and hidden it in their hearts? Have they
Yeah.
truly seen the truth and rejected it?
There's two different
That's
types.
the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big difference.
They call
Some know the
kafir.
truth and they still deny it.
Are they just lost, or are they
Yeah.
just ignorant?
And some are looking for it, but they can't find it, or they can't be
It's
sure.
rejecting it more so than knowing it.
Yeah.
A true kafir, is the one who has seen the truth and rejected, or has seen the truth and hidden it.
And whose fault is it that some people haven't heard?
Yes.
It's our fault.
Ahsant, yes, or understood it.
So it's
the
even
correct way.
while you're thinking bad about them,
Yeah. It's your fault because you
It's
didn't
your fault.
You didn't show them good morals.
Because
You're
there's how are
stealing
they
from
supposed-
them.
how are they supposed to hear about it?
Yeah. You're right.
So it's a big problem. I mean,
Precisely.
and then even if they hear it, that's different than rejecting it.
Yes.
Because they can hear it and not understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times you
Or they're still on their journey. They're still
Yeah, they're
processing.
still-
It's Allahu A'lam. I mean, all of us are on a journey.
Yeah. So
And,
and they cannot understand it properly.
Mm.
But if someone openly rejects, no, I don't believe in the prophet, and they understand everything.
yes, despite the evidence.
Yeah, then
it's
that's-
a difficult situation.
But if someone's learning and
Yeah.
trying,
Yeah.
So back to that hadith then. I guess another thing too is because you can link it to other hadiths too. It doesn't matter how big the deed is, or how grand it looks, or how much money is involved in it, or how much. I hate to even say effort, because I think being very sincere in something involves a lot of effort. I think being very sincere is actually a lot of effort. But I meant like cleaning the whole mosque versus like picking up like one piece of trash. If you do pick up that one piece of trash with sincerity and with faith, that that there is, I'm trying to increase the goodness.
And you have to avoid the riyah.
Yes, the riyah, and also your own like ujub, being happy with your own self.
Ego.
Yeah, it's
That's the real jihad in nafs.
yeah. So, you have to avoid. I don't want people to think I'm good. I don't want myself to think I'm above them whenever I am.
I should be better.
Yeah.
and the ego, that's a whole,
Yeah. Raise the bar.
that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that hadith kind of goes into that in terms of showing that the disposition when you do have ikhlas in your amal, right? When you have ikhlas, when you have that true sincerity in your action, it purifies your heart, right? It makes your heart more refined, and as a result, you see whatever Allah gives you as being in your maslahah. Even if that's why you see some people, they're like struggling in life, they're having so many trials, right? But they still have that good opinion of Allah, right?
Palestine. That's
Right.
example.
Exactly. That's a great example, right? But many people in this world, it's in fact, they go through such hardships, such trials, but they keep that good opinion of Allah, right? And so that shows you, right, that specifically Allah, and there's hadith also that if Allah doesn't put you through trial, He doesn't put you through calamity or hardship, there's a problem, right? Right? There's a problem with you,
That means
because
he's letting you enjoy right now.
yes, yeah,
Good luck.
perhaps He's giving you just some enjoyment in this world, and then you're gonna But of course, I think a believer himself automatically has a good opinion of Allah, right? No matter what hardships he faces, no matter what difficulties, and you guys have heard the word fitna, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys know what fitna means?
Discord.
Fitna, yes. So people use fitna as a trial, right? Temptation, they say fitna, right? That's how you translate the word. But yes, it could mean discord as well. But do you guys know what the root meaning is of fitna?
Fitan.
So fitna means to take, so you have a piece of gold that has a lot of impurities in it, like it's like a gold ore, but it has like a little bit of steel in it, a little bit of like iron, right? So what you do is you take that piece of gold ore and you stick it in the fire, right? To get out all the impurities, to get out make it just refined pure gold, right? Because the other metals, all the other metal alloys, they have different, basically, boiling temperatures, right? So they kind of all can separate out from the gold. So that process is called fitna, right?
Arabic is so deep.
Yeah. So when Allah puts you through trial, right? He gives you a fitna, right? It's a mercy for you. It's a mercy to purify yourself, right? And Allah says, right, in the Quran, right, ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب. That Allah would not allow the believers to stay on the same trajectory that they're upon until He separates the khabith from the tayyib, the wicked from the pure, right? So, so the thing is, Allah is constantly trying to do a jala'ul qalb. I think this is a very important concept. Jala'ul qalb means like to refine or polish your heart, right? So Allah gives you trials, hardships in life, sometimes to just purify you, to make you more receptive of the divine light. Um, and so when you have that ikhlas, right, you send that ikhlas up to Allah, right, automatically you get this mindset of whatever hardship befalls me, you think about it as a maslahah for you, as an opportunity for you to become a better person, right? And even when you look in the story of Prophet Musa, this is very interesting. You guys have probably uh, heard of all the trials that Prophet Musa went through, right? What was like one of the first trials he faced from birth?
Being raised in a Pharaoh's house.
Yeah, well, even before that, even
Uh,
before
being
that, even
killed.
before his birth, actually.
Yeah, being threatened, like being killed.
Destined to be slaughtered.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, destined to be slaughtered. Like literally, Pharaoh was sending his men out to like, find all the pregnant women and kill them so that they wouldn't give birth to this promised Messiah, right? So literally he was born in secret, and then what happened to his mom? She had to do
throw
what?
him in the river.
Throw him in the river, right? Yeah. So from the very moment of his birth, right, he's basically being like cast away into the river, into like, these, you can imagine just throwing your baby into the river, right, in a basket. Like,
You don't know it's gonna go to the other side. You don't know it's gonna. You
yeah.
think it's gonna go to the Mediterranean. But that's
Yeah.
where the river's going.
And so, like from the very outset, Prophet Musa is running away. Like he's running away, right? And then he grows up in Pharaoh's castle, right? And then after he grows up, he hits you guys remember he hits the Pharaoh's minion, right? When he's in that argumentation with one of these servants of Bani Israel gets in a confrontation with one of
Interesting. The word
Pharaoh's
Shia is used
soldiers,
here, but anyway.
right? Yes. Right, yes. But in this whole confrontation, Prophet Musa, you guys remember, he punches Pharaoh's soldier, right? And he dies. And then he has to run away again, right?
Yeah.
So he's constantly like on the run.
Exile.
He's
Yeah.
constantly like running away from people. Allah's constantly pushing him away from first his family, and then on top of that, then the person who actually raised him, Pharaoh, he's pushing him away from him, right? He's running away to Madian, right? When he gets there, like everybody's like, he's literally just staying in the shade. He's trying to find someone to take care of him, to like, he's completely on his own. He doesn't have any family. He's run away from everything he knew, right? And then Prophet Shu'aib's daughters, he sees them, he helps them, and as a result, Allah brings him closer to this Prophet of Allah, Prophet Shu'aib, right? And then as a result, he like all those years, right? He's he literally works. One of the conditions of his marriage to Shu'aib's daughter, do you guys remember what it was?
8 years.
8 years of work, right?
And
So he's like,
you can add
that
two
was
more.
his part of his dowry was that I have to work for you for 8 years, and Prophet Shu'aib was a shepherd, right? So he had lots of, yeah. So basically, Prophet Musa took over that job, right? He became a shepherd. Prophet Shu'aib taught him everything he knew, and literally for 8 years he's working, right? And then
Did he do the 10 years? Or he did the 8 years. I'm curious because I think Shu'aib alayhi salam tells
you're right.
him-
Yes, he says فَإِنْ أَتْمَمْتَ عَشْرًا
Yeah.
فَمِنْ عِنْدِكَ,
I'm
right?
actually curious. I actually don't know the answer. I don't know
Yes,
if he knows
I
the
think the hadith say it was 10. It was a full 10.
So he gave him two more from himself, I guess. Like,
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
So
it's-
Prophet Shu'aib told him. So
Yeah.
that also shows you ihsan, right?
Subhanallah.
Prophet
It's very
Musa
interesting,
does the
yeah.
best, right? He does the best for
he
others,
did
right?
the work, we also added extra.
Yes.
2 more years.
So-
Years. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, so anyways, then after all of this, right? After having this whole experience, right? Finally, he gets to the mountain, right? He sees this fire, right? In a distance, he's traveling with his family in the deserts of Midian, right? That part of basically, it's kind of like Midian would be like Sinai, yeah, like around that area, right? So he's like in the Sinai desert, just traveling with his family, right? And it's very cold. It's like pitch black at night, and he sees like a mountain there with a little bit of a fire in the distance, and it's super cold, and his family is like literally shivering, right? Imagine all these difficulties he's facing up till this point, right? Such a tough life, right? He sees this fire and he goes there, right? And then Allah starts speaking to him through that burning bush, right? Um, and he hears this voice that's literally like, Prophet Musa, I'm Allah, and take off your shoes, right? Enter the valley of Tuwa. And then Allah starts speaking to him. And one of the things he tells him is that, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي. I put you through all of these things because I wanted to design you myself. I designed you myself. All your life experiences, I put you through those things so you could become the man you are today, and you can accept this apostleship to go back to Pharaoh and give him this message, right?
God gave him the strength.
Allah gave him the strength through all of those trials he faced from the beginning of his life up to that point. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I would have
But
failed.
Allah A'lam what your destiny would be, what trial you're being prepared for. So, and I wouldn't discount myself, honestly.
But
I
it's
would
kind of like the military, right? Like
Yeah.
a soldier, he's
You gotta
trained
do it.
this way. Even though he's serving the nation, he's treated like dirt
You
for like
gotta go
years
through
and
it.
years,
Yeah.
and then they toughen up.
Yes.
And
I
then they
mean,
get to that
and like I
position.
told you, right? Fitna, Allah literally puts you in the fire to get all those impurities out of you. Allah's constantly trying you. He's constantly giving you hardships so that you can become more mukhnas. You can become more sincere, right? So like literally this whole journey of Prophet Musa was psychologically, right? You think about it, a kid thrown away by his mother, right?
It's
Into the
Where
river.
was his mother? Did he ever reunite?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. During the time basically when he was
came back, I think, 40 or something years
well,
later.
no, I mean even before that though, because
Oh, yeah,
They
sorry.
need the breastfeeding.
When he was in the
when
in
when
Pharaoh's
he
house?
yes, when he wanted to, basically a baby needs to breastfeed. None of
He
Pharaoh's like women folk were able to breastfeed Prophet Musa, right? He wouldn't accept any of them, right? So then eventually Prophet Musa's sister goes to Pharaoh's like court and says, I know a family that can help breastfeed Prophet Musa, right? So then literally Allah reunites Prophet Musa with his mother, right? Through this mechanism.
Oh,
But
even at a young age.
yes, at a
Yeah,
young
as a
age,
baby.
yeah,
He was
born.
as a baby, yeah. So I mean, but that's the way that Allah still had so much like kindness for Prophet Musa that He still allowed him to, in every stage of his life, right? Allah took care of Prophet Musa, right, from the very beginning.
I would argue that kindness was maybe directed toward the mom even more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, even the verse, the Quran mentions that, right? وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى
so
فَارِغًا.
sad.
Like the mother's heart,
Yeah.
right? The mother of Prophet Musa, her heart became completely empty.
Yeah.
It's like complete when you lose your child and you just throw your child in the river. Imagine how
The
like a
Quran
mother
describes it so
feels, right?
beautifully too. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
That
Yeah.
also explains like probably why Prophet Yusuf's mother like passed away. Like, cause could a mother handle like that long, like 40 years of not seeing their own
Yeah,
son?
I think the hadith mentioned though that she passed away even before
Even
this whole
before.
incident.
Mm.
So she'd passed away like very
Before
early
Yusuf,
on.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I think at the childbirth of like
Of Binyamin.
Binyamin,
Yeah.
she passed away at that time.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't think it was necessarily related to that. But still, I mean, the whole point though is that you can see all the experiences that Prophet Musa goes through, right? And Allah,
And that's
He
before
says,
Fir'aun.
yeah.
Before, yeah.
It's before
Then it
Fir'aun.
gets
Before Banu Israel too.
Yeah. But you
you
can see like Allah says, look, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي. Istina literally comes from the word. You guys know what sana'a means? Sana'a? Have you guys heard that word? Or sana'a? Probably Abdullah knows.
May not be the original meaning. I mean, the common term is it's like a profession.
Yeah, sana'a is like to basically it's used for like industrial processes, right? In the modern standard Arabic, you say sana'a is like to design something or to create it, right? But even in the original Arabic, it has that meaning of suna. Suna means to like design something,
Manufacture.
to basically fashion it, right? So وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي literally means like I designed you for myself. Like Allah designed him. He gave him all the right experiences in life so that he would be perfectly qualified to do this task of, delivering the message of Allah to Pharaoh, right? So you can see that Allah literally designed everything in his life to help give him that strength and that capacity. Because you can imagine, like any of us, you tell us like go towards like the biggest, most important person in the entire world, right? At that time, and just tell him, look, you're not all that. You're not who you really think you are. Like Allah is much higher than you, right? And Allah even like describes the whole incident in the Quran, right? Of how Prophet Musa goes to the court of Pharaoh, and how Pharaoh is literally ridiculing him, right?
And you're an ex-con too, or
Yeah.
you're a convict basically
Yeah.
in that nation. You
Yeah.
killed somebody, you're a murderer, you're considered murder. You know,
Yeah, and he actually uses this word, right? He
Yeah.
says, "Alam nurabbika fina walidan wa labithta fina min umrika sinin." Were you not the same person who used to like live amongst us, right? And we used to take care of you. We actually brought you up stage by stage for years. You used to live with us, right? Then he says, وَفَعَلْتَ فَعْلَتَكَ الَّتِي فَعَلْتَ وَأَنْتَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. He says, like, you did that heinous, evil thing that you did, meaning like, killing one of my soldiers, right? Punching him and causing him to die, right? You did that heinous thing, and you are indeed amongst the kafirs. You're like one of those people. He's telling Prophet Musa that you're a kafir, right?
Kafir بالنعمة amazing. Or
Yeah.
kafir
So a
basically
kafir, because remember
Yeah.
we were talking about this a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
but what does kafir mean?
Disbeliever.
Not necessarily disbelief. It means someone who covers up a who basically covers up something that's the truth, right? Somebody who covers up the truth is called a kafir, right? So that's the original indication of the meaning of that word, right? So specifically, right, kafir has this meaning, and so when it comes to being ungrateful, kafir also has that significance. Because what does somebody ungrateful? What do they do? You gave them a favor, but they try to cover up your favor. They try to pretend like it didn't happen. They try to
It's a difficult position, man.
yeah, right?
Beyond just him being Pharaoh, all this background too that you have in you.
Yeah, like literally he's mocking Prophet Musa, right? He's
Like, how dare you come up to
he's
me?
like, how dare you? Who are you?
Yeah.
I raised
Of all
you.
people, you.
Yeah. And so but then Prophet Musa, he gives a very interesting answer, right? He says, قال فعنتها إذا وأنا من الضالين, right? ففررت منكم لما خفتكم فوهب لي ربي حكما وجعلني من المرسلين, right? So he says that I did that way before, right? When I was amongst those who basically were lost, right? Um, so this idea, I think this is very interesting to explore. Maybe we can explore this because the Quran is very deep, right? A prophet himself calling himself amongst the Dhalin, right? So
Oh boy,
right?
Fatiha says we can't be from the Dhalin. So
Yes.
what's going on? You know?
Yes,
How
yeah.
can you reconcile this?
So it's a very interesting question. And there's another set of verses in Surah Duha that we know, right? وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى, right? That it's referring to the
lost.
Prophet, that we found you amongst those
Is
who
he
were
also from
lost,
the Dhalin?
right? And then we guided you, right? But so the Mufassirin on this point, they say when the prophets say this, what they mean is that in themselves, right, without Allah's guidance, they would be lost, right? It doesn't mean that they literally were lost. It means that without Allah guiding them every step of the way, they would have been lost, right? And even there's a very famous dua from the Prophet, right? Ilahi la takilni ila nafsi tarfata aynin abada, right? Prophet says, tells Allah, don't allow me to be left to myself, even for the blink of an eye, right?
Yeah.
Ever. Because Allah is constantly giving us His providence, constantly guiding us, constantly nourishing us, right? So even for the prophets, that's the case. Allah is the source of all guidance, right? So, but anyways, this is very interesting. The Prophet Musa says, وَتِلْكَ نِعْمَةٌ أَنْعَمْتَهَا عَلَيَّ أَنْ عَبَّدْتَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل, right? This ni'mah that you're trying to make a big ostentation about, that you like took care of me, and the whole reason it even happened is because you subjugated and enslaved the Banu Israel. You were literally trying to kill them, and that's the reason why my mom had to even throw me into the river. That's the reason why I was even raised in your court. The whole reason why I ended up being amongst your people, and you now giving me this, like, I gave such a favor to you, is because of your own oppression, right? So this is like Prophet Musa completely decimated his argument, right? So you see how Allah gave Prophet Musa that clinical, or I guess that not clinical acumen, that acumen, right? That brilliance to actually be able to dismantle the arguments of Fir'aun in his face, right? The most powerful dictator of his time, right? So that's all that training that Allah gave Prophet Musa to that point helped him, right? To be able to uniquely do that task. Very interesting is Prophet Musa, he says in this same conversation with Fir'aun, Fir'aun asked him, like, who's your Lord, right? So he says, رَبُّنَا الَّذِي أَعْطَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلْقَهُ ثُمَّ هَدَى, right? That my Lord is the one who's given everything, its creation, and then he guides it. He continuously guides it, right? So, so what is Prophet Musa saying there? That he's actually acknowledging what Allah said earlier, that وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي, I designed you for myself. He's actually saying that I believe in this Lord, that he's basically, created me, but Allah doesn't just create you. He's constantly nourishing you, constantly giving you guidance at every step of the way, every step of your life, right? So that's why we always, like in Surah Fatiha, you're constantly asking, like, ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Are we not already on the right path? Are we not already guided? Why do we keep asking Allah to guide us? What do you guys
Ma'rifah.
think?
You
Huh?
need ma'rifah.
You need ma'rifah. Okay. What else? What do we just talk about?
Blink
Like,
of an eye could get you off this.
blink of an eye, right?
Keep on.
You can literally deviate in a second.
Yeah, but keep on.
So being on the straight path is something you need constant divine providence for. You need Allah to constantly keep directing you on that path. At any moment you can swerve. If you're left to yourself for even the blink of an eye, you could deviate.
رَبَّنَا لَا
Right.
تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا
Yes,
بَعْدَ إِذْ
رَبَّنَا لَا
هَدَيْتَنَا.
تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. Beautiful. Yes, ahsan. So you guys are seeing the philosophy already, right? So when you look at this hadith, immediately it opens up to you when you start thinking about these concepts, right? That when you actually have that ikhlas in your ibadah and you behave like that in that fashion with
Just
Allah,
any action, not
right?
even ibadah. I think just any action. It becomes an ibadah, I guess, when you do it.
Yeah.
Ikhlas. Yeah.
But that tells you what the definition of ibadah is, not necessarily just praying, and it's actually even thinking about Allah, even your thoughts about Allah, even when you go about your day. If Allah gives you a hardship, a trial, right? You're trying to get to school and maybe,
There's a car accident.
somebody hits you from the back, you get a fender bender or something. You're like, dang it,
You have an exam,
Yeah.
oh, man.
man, why is life so hard, right? But Allah is putting you through sometimes these things for you to realize, that this world is not a place of rest. It's not a place of ease. All these challenges, these difficulties, should be directing you towards the hereafter, right? Be thinking about the hereafter. Some people, they ask, okay, this is very common. People, they're like, the imams, right? They're basically, they think of the imams as these superheroes that never got sick, that never faced any hardship, that were always like, at the frontier, right? They were just like superhumans. But the
They
imams
pray and
themselves,
food would come
Yeah,
down,
they could do anything,
Yeah.
pretty much.
but the imams themselves, like, they face such hardships in life, right? Not only that, the imams themselves would get sick, right? Why did they get sick?
Yeah.
If they're truly like
Yeah.
Allah's,
Yeah.
Allah's basically chosen
Or they're not
representatives,
praying to get themselves better. What's
Yeah.
going on?
right? So why do you guys think that is?
Everybody gets sick. Nobody's immune from
Some
getting
people, they're
sick.
like, oh, when you get sick, it's expiation for your sins.
It's
Allah's giving
punishment.
you some type of punishment in this world, so you don't.
penance.
Yeah.
It's against Su'al.
Well, do you think the imams had sins that they needed expiation
No.
for? So why did Allah make them get sick?
Strengthen them.
To strengthen them, yes, to basically, right? It was something. It's also for the other people around them, right? You think about it in this sense. That's to show people that, look, none of us are going to live in this. None of us are going to be living forever in this world. We all are humans.
More dependent.
We're all dependent upon Allah. That there's nobody on this earth, right? That is immune, right, from Allah's, basically the natural processes that Allah has put in place, right? So all of these creations, if let's say we had a superhuman imam that never got sick, never was always like, at the frontier, just completely, like, absolutely impervious from every hardship, never died, right? Then you'd be like, how can I follow this person? How can I take him as an example?
Can't relate to him in any way.
I can't even relate to him. He's so beyond me, right? But Allah made our imams relatable in that sense, that they faced the hardships, that they faced the afflictions. Many of the imams, they faced more afflictions than anybody, right? I mean, there's a hadith about this from the Holy Prophet that ma udiya nabiyyun mithla ma udit, right? There's a very famous hadith, even Sunnis narrated, that the Prophet said that no prophet has been hurt the way that I've been hurt, right? The type of afflictions that the Holy Prophet got, no other prophet before him had that. the similarity of that type of affliction, right?
Yeah, he went through a lot.
And not just in life, because you can even go back to the other hadith of Fatima alayhi salam.
Yeah.
فَمَنْ آذَاهَا فَقَدْ آذَانِي.
Everything afterwards affected
Everything
him too.
afterwards as well. So you actually, it's not just during his life, but I think also beyond. Because
And then also having that knowledge of the future in life, that must have been heavy too.
but not even just Imams alayhi salam, even Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself. Why would he? Like, and this is crazy because now that I understand the clinical concept behind it, tying stones on your belly, right? What that does is it flattens your stomach. It's actually what we sometimes when we do, when surgeons do gastric bypasses or they do what's the other one?
Roux-en-Y's or
That's a bypass. The other one, they just cut the stomach. I forgot what it's called. Basically, you make the stomach smaller so that you're not hungry anymore. So what does stones do? When you
like
tie stones,
gastrectomy, I guess.
gastrectomy, yes.
Yeah.
It gives you
It's the same
like a
thing,
feeling
it's
of being full.
Big flow, exactly. So you're squishing the stomach, so you're not feeling a hunger anymore, right? You're squishing your stomach. So it's crazy when you
You
think
could do
about
that now instead of the surgery.
People have. So actually, they have instead of surgeries, they actually have you swallow like big balls that actually will make you like feel like you're full the whole time.
Oh wow.
It doesn't work as well as an actual surgery. It doesn't work as well as that. Drugs now, actually. But,
Yes, right.
Are
it's
you
not a
saying
concept.
like literal rocks?
He'll literally bring rocks,
Yeah,
bring a rope and tie it so it squishes his stomach. Yeah.
This was during Wadi.
Why don't all grown people do that?
You can. You can wear a corset. You can actually wear a corset. You'll vomit the whole time.
corset.
Yeah, you'll vomit the whole time. Yeah. But it's an interesting back to the the suffering. Like imagine like you're that hungry you have to like tie rocks.
2 years in
Yeah.
Sha'b Abu Talib, right?
Yeah. I mean, the amount of hardship that the
Why
Holy
didn't you just
Prophet
pray
had,
for food?
right?
Come on, Maryam alayhi salam was getting food all the time.
even like
Yeah.
being orphaned from his young age, like all of his family members, one after the other, passing away.
Yeah.
His father, his mother,
There's a hadith
his
I think,
grandfather,
that relates
right?
to that being istina' li nafsi as well. I think I forgot where it is. I'm gonna try to find it, but it's similar to the correlation with Musa alayhi salam,
Yeah.
where why would I not give you something to like teach you? Because I don't want you to be taught at all. I think that was kind of part of Allah's wisdom. Is that He didn't want anyone to teach the Prophet sallallahu so He wanted him to go himself and discover Allah, or at least
Then they said they lost a lot of the sons.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's another.
I mean, look at all
Lost
the
all
hard.
of them.
You can just
Yeah,
think about the Holy Prophet's
Yeah.
life, and you see how much hardship he faced from the beginning till the end. So and even after he passed away, posthumously, he continued as all of his family members, one after the other, being assassinated. Right. So I mean, just all that tells you
We have 2
that
minutes, inshallah. I'm sorry.
all that tells you is that who are we? How are we immune? How should we expect ourselves to be immune from hardship? If the Holy Prophets face such hardships and
He's the
difficulties,
best.
right? It's like the most chosen person, the most person who's like the best person to ever exist. He faced all these hardships, all these difficulties. Why do we expect ourselves to be spared, from any type of hardship? and
Especially as
difficulty?
sinners. So
Yeah.
as man, I have to quote Surah Ma'idah again here. وقالت اليهود والنصارى نحن أبناء الله وأحباؤه.
Yes.
I forgot.
قل فلم يعذبكم.
قل عندكم بذنوبكم
Yes.
بل أنتم بشر ممن خلق.
Yeah.
And then the time when they went to the king, didn't they have a lot of famine in Abyssinia?
Yeah. I mean,
Well, they had a
well
lot
the
of
reason they left
famine.
is because they were being like killed by the.
Yeah, and then they had problems there.
They had yeah.
And they had problems with the king.
Ta'if as well. They went to Ta'if first, and
Yeah.
but this verse talks about so that the Jews and the Christians would say we are the sons of God, or we are the beloved ones of God. So Allah answers and tells the Prophet to answer them. So why does He punish you with your sins?
For your sins.
Yeah. And so we're talking about Imams and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being sinless, right? And we have sins, right? And we think that we're not going to be facing consequences for the things that we're doing.
I just had another question. When we say Allahumma salli ala Fatima wa biha wa ba'alaha wa baniha wa sir al-mustawdi fiha.
Yes.
What is sir al-mustawdi fiha? Like
Yes.
the hidden treasure?
It's a big topic.
Yeah. So there's specific narrations about this Asr al-Mustawda, right? The reality is that it's a secret. We don't exactly know the details of it, but we know that on Mi'raj, when the Prophet went for Mi'raj, he was given an apple from Jannah, right? And he ate that apple, and of course, apples, they shouldn't necessarily, when you eat an apple, it doesn't necessarily go into your, into your sperm necessarily, right? But that energy, I guess you can say, maybe the energy, the sustenance, or that nourishment that came from that specific fruit that he got from heaven, that is what uh, became basically the sperm that eventually impregnated Sayyidah
The basic,
Khadija and
the building
resulted
blocks.
in the birth of Sayyidah Fatima, right? So that's as-sirr al-mustawda. We say that as-sirr al-mustawda means the secret, the deposited secret, right? That's literally what as-sirr al-mustawda. Something that Allah deposited in the Holy Prophet that was a secret. And basically, that's why there's hadith, for instance, that say Fatima hawra insiyya, right? Fatima is like basically she's heavenly. She's hawra is the plural, or it's the singular of hur, right? We've heard the word hur, hurul ain, right? For instance, like the maidens of paradise, right? There's a hadith that says Fatima hawra insiyya. She's a human being, but she has these heavenly like qualities.
She's
She's
basically a maiden.
she's like a maiden of paradise, and it's because of this specific incident that happened when the Holy Prophet went to Mi'raj, and this is narrated, even Sunni Shia
Yeah.
books are both mentioned this incident. So that's at least one of the indications that we can say. But you can also say as-sirrul mustawda, right? Is this wilaya, right? This imama that was passed through, say, the Fatima's lineage, right? You could say that is in itself that sirrul mustawda, right?
Yeah.
Because of course, this is I gave you purely an answer from the hadith, right? But when we look at it more philosophically, you see that Sayyidah Fatima is the progenitor of all the imams. She's the source of all the imams, right? Even there's narrations that we are the hujjas over the people, and Fatima is a hujjah upon us, right? Because Fatima is the source of all of our imams. She was with Imam Ali uniting with Sayyidah Fatima. That's what created that lineage of imam, right? So um, you can think about it like Imam Ali, that Alawi lineage united with the Nabawi lineage and Sayyidah Fatima, and that's what produced the imams. So as-sirr al-mustawda has that type of meaning, that Allah has put a special rank, a special station within Sayyidah Fatima that then carried on into her lineage, right? So
You can even think about it that biologically, mitochondrial, inheritance is actually maternal.
Yeah. And I think
you can go beyond that.
I
I
think
thought it was a pomegranate. I never knew it was an apple.
yes, I think there's different narrations. Some say apple, some say pomegranate. But the fruits of heaven, I think we might have talked about this. I don't know if we did, but somebody came to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, or it was, I think, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, rather, and they told him that uh, we have heard, from the books of the Amma, the basically the Sunnis, that this forbidden tree that Prophet Adam was told, don't eat from this tree, right? We've heard that it was a pomegranate tree, we've heard it was a date tree, and we heard it was an apple tree. So which one is it? Like, they came to Imam al-Baqir, right? So he said all three. That's at the same time.
Curious.
So
Interesting.
Maybe it's like the original fruit before all of the.
so they asked him like how can it be all three? So he said that basically the fruits of heaven, they're not like any of the fruits of the
So they
earth.
must have multiple.
So they have the
qualities.
qualities of all three simultaneously. So you can call it either one. You can call it any one of those things. But the fruits of heaven they're actually everything in the Quran that's used to describe what comes in heaven, right? It's beyond your even comprehension.
Yeah.
Like you can't even
That's
imagine.
a
That's why
dumbed-down version.
you know how there's hadith that's like if you pray Jama'ah, you get like the reward, like such a reward that you can't even imagine,
where you get
right?
like a tree, you get a
Or that
house,
for
you get
yes,
a masjid,
you'll get like
we
for
simplify it in our minds.
every hair on your head, you
Yeah.
get like a castle in heaven.
Yeah.
It's like what? Like how can it be that
That's a lot
much
of maintenance,
reward,
man.
right?
That's a lot of property taxes.
So you have the angels.
It's like how can it be that much reward, right?
Yeah.
So I think so Ayatollah Jawadi Amini has a book. It's called Mafatihul Hayat, right? And it's kind of a second volume of Mafatihul Jinan. He wrote it as a second volume, right? And he said, look, Mafatihul Jinan tells you the principles of how to talk to Allah, right? How to, but he said it's incomplete because you also need mu'amalat. You need your interactions with people, your interactions with yourself,
More important than
you know.
really,
So he wrote a second volume to Mafatih al-Jinan called Mafatih al-Hayat, and it tells you like how do you behave with
The keys to
yourself,
paradise and the keys to
the
life.
the
Yeah.
keys to life, exactly, right? Keys to paradise, keys to life. So it's the second volume, and it's very famous in Iran. It's a very famous.
I've never
book.
heard of it,
Yeah,
actually.
So,
Is it-
anyways, but
is it in Arabic or
it was written in Persian, but it was
They must
translated
have
into
been
Arabic.
translated.
It's been translated into Arabic, Urdu, Indonesian,
Interesting.
and it was translated in English, but the translators did a very poor job, so they had to like go back and fix it all. So it should be available sometime soon, but it hasn't been released on the market yet. But anyways, so in this he describes this whole philosophy, right? About like how do you understand all these rewards in heaven, right? So he was saying that like the rewards of heaven are things that you cannot even comprehend. They're things beyond even your imagination, right? So when Allah describes it, like, or when you hear these types of descriptions that you're gonna get a reward of this extent, of that extent, right? It's saying like basically in accordance to what the earthly pleasure would be, that's what it will be like in heaven. It's giving you like a proportionality, like that joy that someone would have from having an entire castle, right? Allah's like, you're gonna get 250 castles or 300 castles. It's like it's telling you the amount of joy that a person would feel being a king on this earth, right? Having a castle. That's gonna be multiplied 300 times, right? So that's what it's describing. It's trying to give you a sense of the absolute joy that you will have in heaven as a consequence of your good deeds here, right? So don't take it literally in that sense. So going back to that question that you had, it could be both, right? It could be an apple, it could be a pomegranate,
multiple
but basically it
dimensions.
means you know, a fruit from that otherworldly world, right? That the Holy Prophet, you know, was given, right?
I wanted to add, it's like I don't know if it's like going off course, but if it says that it's like compared to this, it's like the joy you get here. Wouldn't it be like when you get to heaven, wouldn't it feel like it's just like it's worthless now? Cause like it, for example, like when someone has everything in the world, when someone has everything in the world,
Are you okay with kids eating it tomorrow?
Whatever you want to do. Yeah.
God bless you.
someone,
So
so like somebody in this world that has everything, they don't really feel like it's like they have everything. So like there's no more of a purpose in life. So now there's like no joy. Now it's just depression.
yeah.
So let's say like in Jannah, Jannah is like so much better. You're gonna have everything, then like you won't even have a purpose.
You already fulfilled your purpose. That's why you're there.
So heaven. So what do you think makes a person happy? What do you think?
Accomplishing something. Like
So you think it's
having,
opportunities for growth, right?
yeah.
So do you think heaven doesn't have opportunities for growth?
Yes, but like when you have heaven, it's described as something like it gives you everything that you need, that you
Yeah.
want to have, not need.
So in heaven, there's constant progression too. There's constant evolution. It's not you're stagnant. You can keep growing in your ma'rifah of Allah, and as a
Yes.
result, you keep ascending the
So
levels.
could you climb like different layers of Jannah? Like
Yes, yes,
actually?
Oh, there's
yes.
different layers of Jannah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
There's
No,
different
I
layers of
thought it was
Jannah,
just
and
like
it's
whatever layer you were in, like the world. That's like where you're at. That's the end. For
no,
1,000 years.
no. You
You
can
gotta be in the
continue to ascend.
stratosphere to be able
Yeah.
to ascend.
Oh wow.
So and the levels of ascent are infinite. You
But
know.
I'm guessing there's no way to fall back. Like
Allahu A'lam. I mean, some creations have fallen back.
Yeah.
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 I mean, but Shaitan won't be there anymore. So
Well, you know, the story
unless
never
Allah
ends.
makes the version
The
2.0.
story never ends. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least per our riwayat, you know, the believers they continue to ascend, the disbelievers they continue to descend, right? So, I mean, the reality is that you know, there's still opportunity for growth.
So as
You know?
long as you make the bare minimum, or if you want a head start.
That's why even for the Holy Prophet, right? You think about the Prophet as the pinnacle. But what does the Quran say? He says, "Rabbi zidni ilma," right? Allah says, "Waqul Rabbi zidni ilma," and say, "May oh my Lord, increase me in knowledge." Why? Because the Prophet still has potential. He's still, Allah's saying he still has more
Allah is
qabiliyah.
limitless.
He still has potential to ascend,
There's
right?
limitless potential.
Right?
Absolutely.
And even in Salah, right, we say, وَتَقَبَّلْ شَفَاعَتَهُ فِي أُمَّتِهِ وَارْفَعْ دَرَجَتَهُ, right? We're telling Allah to raise the rank of the Prophet, right? We're supplicating to Allah to raise the rank. That means the Prophet still has potential, right? So the levels of ascent are infinite, right? We can keep getting closer and closer.
Wow.
Because there's always going to be a separation between Khaliq and Makhluk, right? So you can always increase your spiritual rank higher and higher. So even in heaven, that's why it doesn't ever get boring. It doesn't ever get repetitive or redundant, because there's always a new realm to explore, to develop into, right?
Yeah, because I've seen like too many examples, like including me, where I want something really bad, and then like
Once
once
you
I
have it,
once I get it,
yeah.
I'm like, alright, what now? What I do?
You've given the microcosm of the dunya, though. You actually just defined dunya, basically.
Yeah, that's dunya.
Yeah.
That's so when you said it's limitless, it's infinite because it's Allah
Yeah.
and the ascensions.
Like you eat some good food and then you're full. You're like, oh, well,
Oh.
Yeah. Ramadan, drink a sip of water. Oh, you're full.
Yeah, that's dunya, like you was saying, dunya. What does dunya mean?
It's like the shell that you're in
Dana.
before you start a real life.
So it doesn't come from dana, it comes from dana. Dana yadnu, right? Dana is like the ajwaf. It's dawana. That would be duna, right? Duna, right? So dunya means to be low, right? To be very close, to be very imminent, right? Imminent means like very close, right? So this dunya is a place that's on the lowest existential ladder, lowest rung of the existential ladder. It's the lowest of the low, right? So there's realms beyond, everything beyond from here is ascension upward, right? So you're in the dunya, and one of the things about the dunya is the pleasures are so fleeting, right? So like for instance, I'll give you guys examples like he was mentioning, eating, right? Or having to go to the bathroom, right? You really have to go, you have that need, you relieve that need, and then you like, okay, I'm okay again.
Man, all the fuss that
Everything's-
Yeah. And like you see all these pleasures that are all fleeting. I mean,
Even video games, actually. Even video games.
Video games,
You finish
right?
the game, you're just like, okay, well,
Now what?
that was 50 hours of. Wow.
so
This is me after high school. It's like, now what?
yeah, so the thing is, the fact that this is actually a proof of the hereafter, right? Because the fact is that Allah has given you these emotions, right?
That are
Or
unfulfilled.
let me give you another example. So seeing someone you love, like okay, we started with this hadith of the Holy Prophet, right? That first person he would greet when he comes back would be Sayyidah Fatima. The last person he would give goodbye wishes to was Sayyidah Fatima, right? So even when you think about, like, let's say you guys have been sort of living here in Tampa close to your parents, but like when you're, for instance, far away, like probably Abdullah can relate when he was in like Albany, right? When you're away from your parents, right, you kind of get this sense of loneliness, nostalgia, like, man, I really wish I could see my parents again, right? And then you see them, right? But then the trip is so short. You have to go back then to like wherever you can. And then you're like, that separation, what we call, al-firaq, right? Al-firaq is like, separation between you and your loved ones, right? That the fact that exists, right? In this world, it's a sign that this world is not permanent. Allah's given you this automatic
It's in your fitrah.
fitrah, right? That you love to be with your family, you love to be around those individuals who you love, right? But it's always so short-lived. Everything in this world is fleeting. Eventually, you're gonna die, and you're gonna stop, and all pleasures that you had that were all in themselves just fleeting moments, just instantaneous pleasure, right? We talk about instant gratification. That's what it is. This world is just a series of instant gratifications, right? And then at some point it ends, and then you move on to the next world. But the fact that these instant gratifications exist, there's a qabiliyah for it to become infinite. There's a qabiliyah for that to persist forever, right? So in heaven, that's what happens, right? In heaven, that sort of that pleasure that you get from eating something like a really good burger or eating a really really sweet pomegranate, we'll say, right? That continues. That doesn't go away. It doesn't. It's not like a fleeting pleasure. It persists. It constantly keeps giving you You know, there's a verse, تؤتي أكلها كل حين بإذن ربها. Every moment, it's constantly renewing itself, right? So that's why the pleasures of the hereafter, you can't compare it to this world and say, oh, well, I get bored after after I eat maybe like one, two really nice tangerines. I'm like, okay, tangerines are boring now. But heaven, that pleasure keeps going, right? It keeps going, and that's why it's not even possible for a human being to imagine it, right? There's a verse in the Quran, فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ, that no soul even understands. They cannot even comprehend what Allah has hidden for them of things that will cool their eyes, meaning things that will give them pleasure, will give them happiness, right? So,
لأن الحديث فيها ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت.
ahsant, yeah.
Whenever you think about heaven, think about something the eye has never seen and the ear has never heard.
وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ, right? And nothing has not even crossed anyone's mind, right? It hasn't even come to their heart that this could even be something that is possible, right? But in heaven, so think about all the pleasures Allah has given you. He's given you a taste of various pleasures in this world. But imagine in heaven, that's amplified and that's increased in orders of magnitude, right? And it continues, it doesn't disappear. So you're always with your loved ones. You're always enjoying new tastes, new experiences constantly, right? And that keeps you constantly happy. It keeps you constantly in that state of joy. So I think that's why it's really hard when we start talking about all these. Some people are like, oh, what is this, like, you know, gardens in heaven with rivers beneath us? Like, maybe it doesn't appeal to people anymore. They're like, well, we have things that are even better these days, you know. But at that time, for the Arabs, to them, that was the pinnacle, right, of happiness. So Allah was using an analogy for them, right? But for us, maybe it's driving a supercar or whatever. I don't know. You know, whatever makes.
Living different realities.
Basically, what it's saying is that in heaven, your joy, the joy that you will experience, is beyond anything in this world, right?
Sorry, we're a little late from our finishing this. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. صلوا على محمد وعلى
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى